coming into the starchy carbohydrates. Starchy carbohydrates are the starchy vegetables and the grain foods. And here are excellent foods: potato, pumpkin and sweet potato. Potato has a very high level of potassium just under the skin. Its starch content is about 16 to 18%, which is much less than in bread, which is just under 50% starch. So they are not loaded with calories, and they're very high in potassium just under the skin. They have a high glycemic index, and people warn about them. But if the potato is eaten with other foods, especially the vegetables, then that glycemic index is diluted and it shouldn't be a problem. Pumpkin is orange, it's yellow, with an antioxidant in the carotenoid family known as cryptoxanthin. It's a powerful antioxidant, make them a marvellous food. The energy content of pumpkin is about 5, 6, 7%. They're extremely low in calories. You could eat a lot of pumpkin and it would still be good for you. Sweet potato, especially if it's the purple one, has the same antioxidant as blueberries. And sweet potato is about 24% carbohydrate, of which a little bit of sugar making it sweet. Again, a very nice food to include. Now, coming into the grain foods. Corn. There's some canned sweet corn. They put sugar in the can. Not a food that we're particularly recommending, but again, there's basic good nutrition in it to use occasionally. I make great sweet corn patties using the can. Rice thins. If somebody has a problem with the gluten in wheat, rice thins can do the job beautifully. Rice thins, in fact, these are rice and corn. Rice and corn thins can do the job for you nicely. And again, they're a starchy food, gluten-free, quite suitable to eat in moderate amounts. Coming in then to the breads. That's wholemeal bread, which is about 45% starch and a fairly good level of minerals. But all wheat contains gluten. Gluten occurs in wheat, then rye, then lower levels in barley and oats. Oats is a very good grain. It's got quite a high level of fat compared to the other grains. I think it's something like 7%. And that's what makes a nice creamy porridge. So rolled oats porridge is for very good reason that it makes such a nice porridge. We would tend to use that for lunch. Rice, again, is a good grain. It's not by chance that Asian people by the millions have thrived on rice for centuries. It needs to be whole grain rice because the situation is similar to wheat in that when whole wheat is refined into white flour, half to 3/4 of the minerals and vitamins and about 80% of the fibre are removed. So white flour is really, it's nutritional vandalism to remove so much of the nutrients that are needed and are put there by nature to enable the body to process the starch and the small amount of protein. And without that, we can't do it properly. So in a way, white bread is almost verging on junk food. That might be putting it a bit strongly. But a lot of people are finding gluten these days and they're trying to stay right away from wheat. So here is a perfect answer. This is a bread made by the marathon winner, Olympic champion, marathon champion, Robert D. Costello in Canberra. It's quinoa bread, in which the main ingredient is quinoa, which is this one I referred to, followed by tapioca and soya flour. And it makes a really nice bread. It's quite a dense loaf, but you only need very thin slices. And it's completely gluten-free and completely grain-free. It's an excellent bread, and if anything, it's a protein food, which is very good in a plant-based diet. So they're the starchy carbohydrates, the starchy veggies, and the grain foods. Dried fruit and maple syrup and honey and white sugar, these are foods we don't need, but we like them. Dried fruit is simply what it says. Fresh fruit, and they're dates from the Middle East, and raisins, which are grapes, with most of the water removed. So they're about 70% sugar, whereas the fresh grape is about 18% sugar. So these are quite concentrated. And of course, that amount of sugar, because these now have a much smaller volume for the same amount of sugar compared to the grapes with a high water content, with 80% water, we can consume much more of these. So we need to be restrained and limit our intake of dried fruit in any one meal to about 60 grams at a time. Otherwise, blood sugar level will jack up and you'll feel zonked afterwards as your blood sugar level is dumped. And these are sultanas, which from another kind of grape. So dried fruit, dates, raisins, sultanas, dried apricots, dried apples and pears, they're quite good nutrition, very concentrated, chew them thoroughly, and in small amounts they're fine. Then we come to the concentrated sweeteners. Honey is a really good sweetener as long as you allow for its concentration. It's 80% sugar, sucrose and fructose, and 20% water, with a quite low level of minerals and vitamins. Surprisingly, even though it is concentrated nectar from plants, the mineral and vitamin content is not very high. But as long as you buy honey that is raw or unheated or unfiltered, is the way they describe it, meaning that the temperature has not gone up anywhere near the temperature that they heat the honey to filter it and get out the bees' wings and so on, the temperature is nowhere near 48 degrees, which would kill all the enzymes. And a concentrated sugar like honey needs its enzymes to help us digest it. So go for raw, unheated or unfiltered honey that has not been heated to a high temperature. And this is actually a Melaleuca type honey with a very high antibiotic action, extremely high. In fact, Melaleuca honey, Manuka honey, with a very high UMF, will actually kill off some of the bacteria that antibiotics won't deal with anymore. Maple syrup, absolutely delicious. Again, something like 80% sugar, very concentrated. It's made by evaporating the juice, the sap from maple trees in Canada and North America. And it takes, piece of trivia, it takes 40 litres of sap to make 1 litre of maple syrup. So it is very, very concentrated, very delicious. Again, far superior to white sugar, but don't overeat it. Now, coming to white sugar. Here is white sugar. I don't think the label's going to come off. We're all familiar with white sugar. When you look at that white colour, we are looking at something that is completely devoid of any balancing nutrients. It is one nutrient only, sucrose. Everything else is gone. Whereas the lettuce has got 2,000 nutrients, the whole sugarcane juice probably has many thousands. This has got 1. So this is the purest food on earth, the most unbalanced and one of the worst. A lot of nutritionists regard it as high-level junk food. When we compare that to, say, honey, there's a big difference. Honey put on a leg ulcer, for example, will help it heal. White sugar makes no difference. And of course, white sugar goes down, yeah, it has a nice taste, all right, and it does go down very easily. But it has no balancing minerals. People say, oh, but your body can get minerals from elsewhere, from other foods. If people are eating a lot of junk, it can't. Much better off would be to eat an unrefined. Now, I've just got the packet here. An unrefined sugar where the sugarcane juice is concentrated by evaporation and all it's missing is the fibre, and that's no real problem for something that you want in a small way. So here's Rapadura sugar. This is becoming more available, and that has a balance of nutrients with the sugar. Here is actually some black sugar, which is white sugar with the molasses put. The molasses is the bit that's removed to produce white sugar. So that's better. Not ideal, but it's better. This is raw sugar. Raw sugar is so close to white, you can forget it. It's 96% sucrose and about 4% water and not much else. So raw sugar is not the answer. Black sugar is better, or Rapadura. This coconut sugar, which is just concentrated coconut juice, or concentrated, manufactured from coconut and concentrated, that would be a suitable one to use. Now, the low-calorie sweeteners. There's a lot of negative press about aspartame, which is used in the main soft drinks. Here is a sweetener based on stevia. Stevia, which comes from the stevia plant. If you grow a stevia plant at home and bite off a bit of the leaf, it is so sweet, it's amazing. There's no wonder stevia is extracted and is a good sweetener. So amongst the low-cal sweeteners that are safe to consume, stevia, xylitol, maltitose, a few of those low-cal sweeteners, what's called sugar alcohols. So those foods we don't need, but if you are eating dried fruit, limit it to about 60 grams at a time, as I said, and keep honey and maple syrup to very sparing quantities. Coming to the fat concentrate.